Good morning, all. This is Jack from Charting the Markets, and this is the pre-market webinar for the morning of Monday, the 8th of June. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm not here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing, learn from it, transfer to trade charts, and I'm not here to issue trading signals. This is a video for paying subscribers at chartingthemarkets.substack.com. It's published on YouTube after a delay of 24 hours. All right, okay, this is something I was talking about on the bigger picture webinar last night, but I am wondering if we are forming a head and shoulders here. Now, I was hoping for a lower low and 60-minute buy signals this morning. It doesn't look as though we're going to get that, as we're already 61 points up, and we've now gone too high on SPX to actually get a buy signal, and because obviously we need to stay under the 50 level for that. But I'm still wondering whether we're forming a head and shoulders here. It doesn't look as nice. Hey, George. It doesn't look as nice on the SPX charts and the Q charts, but obviously we got pretty close to the, we actually reached the almost perfectly the head and shoulder neckline here, and I'm wondering about a right shoulder rally today, ideal target in about, let's say, about the 75.30 area, and I'm wondering about seeing that, and then seeing more downside the next couple of days. Now, what would give us more downside? Well, I mean, looking at the Hormuz letter, hey, Doug. Look at the Hormuz letter. We've got the Iranians are saying they've closed the Bab al-Mandab Strait, which is the one from the Suez Canal. Hey, Doug. And that they're going to be starting to strike energy targets because the Israelis hit the Iranian energy facilities last night. They were saying that their response to that would be that they would start hitting energy facilities across the Gulf in the Persian Gulf countries. So if they're going to deliver on that, then this could be a pretty interesting week. And what I would say is, in terms of the stats last week delivered perfectly, the historical stats. Every day was as expected. If we see the same again this week, we would see a rally today. We would see downside tomorrow and Wednesday. And we would see rally on Thursday and Friday. That gives us plenty of room to form a right shoulder today and then potentially start playing out from this head and shoulders in the next couple of days after that. I am wondering if that's exactly what we might see. We will see, obviously, a very heavy news environment. And the oil, what's happening on the oil futures market really doesn't bear any doesn't make any sense at all, but and that was the case already last week. But we will see how that goes, and I'm wondering about that head and shoulders forming here. In terms of NQ, we reached the possible head and shoulder neckline, or got pretty close to it. I'm wondering about a right shoulder high, which would be in about the 29,800 or 900 area, I think. On RTY. Here, we don't have a possible head and shoulders forming, but I'm wondering potentially about a retest of the all-time high. Maybe. YM was already the strongest, but we could be forming a head and shoulders there, but equally we could also see a retest of the all-time high. On DAX, it kind of still looks like a flag, and ESTX, I was saying last night, was still kind of looks like a flag. Nikkei, we are seeing a bit of a rally here, and we could have a head and shoulders forming here too. Ideal right shoulder high would be in about the 66,600 area. Now, how reliable is the news on the Hormuz letter? Well, it's slightly embarrassing to say it, from the point of view of the Western Alliance and so on. But actually, almost everything that Trump said about this conflict from the beginning has been rubbish. But what the Iranians have said, they've generally meant. So they've been very, very clear if Israel hit their energy infrastructure, that they would start hitting the energy infrastructure in the other Gulf states, and they would close the Bab al-Mandab Strait. And provisionally, I'm inclined to think that they may well do that. And if they do that, then that's obviously going to be a very significant escalation of this war. But are we looking at that? Well, this is the odds of the Strait of Hormuz traffic returning to normal by the end of June. This was it at 59% when Trump started saying that a deal was about a day away a few weeks ago, and this is it dropping down to high teens end of last week, and this is it making 10% yesterday and being at 11% now. Now, obviously, we've got passage of time there, and we are getting closer to June the 30th, but even on July the 30th, even being open by July the 31st, we've only got a 30% chance now. And that was up when we were talking about peace negotiations, that was up in the mid-70s. So that's not particularly optimistic. In terms of the I'm inclined to believe Iran in terms of what their expectation is of what they're going to do. So, that's just because obviously they've been pretty reliable so far. Will they deliver on this one? Hard to say, but I'm thinking they might well. All right, let's have a look at SPX. SPX, we didn't quite reach the, in terms of the daily signals, the RSI 5 sell signals made target on the Qs and they made target on SPX, and we've got RSI 14 sell signals, which have now fixed, I think, across the board. So that was encouraging for the downside. We saw a back test of the, we saw a breakdown below the daily middle band, and the obvious resistance today is at 74.79, which is the back test of the daily middle band. And I'm going to be watching with interest to see how far that gets. But if we do break above today, then the obvious place to break down again, if we're going to, would actually be tomorrow. So we could see a break above and then a fail. That's actually not a bad match with the ideal right shoulder high at 65.17. You can see on SPX it didn't get quite as close to the head and shoulder neckline, but still perfectly acceptable, just with a more modest target. Where would that target be? Just offhand, I'd be thinking about the 7100 area. Okay, I'm looking at the 15-minute chart where we've got a bit of positive divergence, which is likely to play out into targets this morning. Again, looking at the potential head and shoulders forming here. Looking at Qs, we saw a pretty strong break below the daily middle band. This is the one that went down the most. RSI 5 sell signal made target, RSI 14 sell signal fixed. We've got a potential head and shoulders forming here too. Ideally, that would get us back up into 722.03, and I've got the daily middle band closed on Friday at 722.01. So again, that's a pretty close match. 15 on the hourly sell signals, all the hourly sell signals we had open made target. Obviously, we didn't quite make it down to the head and shoulder neckline, but we got not too far away. We'd be looking at an upsloping neckline there too. Some positive divergence on the 15-minute, which we were seeing across the board on Friday. All right, looking at Dia, RSI 14 sell signals fixed. The weak RSI 5 sell signal has not made target, though we've broken down within this nice-looking rising wedge, and I'm wondering about a test of wedge support, which would be in about the 505 area. We will see how that goes. We've still got an RSI 14 sell signal, which didn't make target on Dia. This had been the strongest last week. I think it was the only one where the weekly pivot actually went up. On the 15-minute chart, we didn't have any positive divergence at below, but you can see we are forming a potential head and shoulders here too, and we will see how that goes today. Ideal high would be in the 514 area. The daily middle band is in the 503 area, so that's not a particularly good match. All right, let's have a look at IWM. IWM, we have, wait a second. All right, we had a daily RSI 14 sell signal fix there already. We didn't quite get an RSI 5 sell signal fix. We broke down below the daily middle band. We didn't reach a potential head and shoulder neckline, and nothing even remotely close to it. But I am wondering about a possible retest of the high. That could give us a double top, or this could just be a big bull flag forming. Because I think a lot of people were saying the mood of the market is changing. I'm inclined to agree with that, but we often see high retests after that's happening as well. On the 15-minute chart, we broke down below the short-term rising support, wedge support, and we've got possible RSI 5 and RSI 14 buy signals spraying. These will likely make out today. DAX, I'm still wondering about a rally from here. Testing the daily middle band, and I'm still wondering about, before this overall move to the upside is done, I'm still wondering about a retest of the high, all-time high at 25.5k. On Nikkei, I would like to see a retest of the high here, because that will set up negative divergence on the daily RSI 5 and RSI 14. All right, great. Let's have a look at currencies, where we were having an interesting Friday and an interesting overnight. We were breaking up on Friday, which wasn't a surprise. I was thinking this was a bullish consolidation, and I'm liking the upside. Short term, though, we do have a 60-minute sell signal that's fixed, and we've got a 60-minute sell signal. So 60-minute buy signal fixed on Euro, on GBP. We've got sell signals fixed, although that's reached the possible near miss target on USD JPY and USD CAD. So we've seen a nice move up on DX, and we're probably going to see some pullback. Bigger picture patterns I was keeping an eye on. We've got a big head and shoulders, which is now broken down on Australian dollars, having been forming the last couple of weeks. And NZ, we've got a nice looking double top, which has also broken down. I'm thinking we see a rally, and those probably follow through to the downside. Looking at ZB, we've got a 60-minute buy signal fixed. On ZN, we've got a 60-minute buy signal fixed. I'm thinking a bit of a rally here, and then we likely go further down. We do have on ZB a double top's broken down with a target in the 110.07 to 110.16 range, but more interestingly on ZN we've got a head and shoulders which is broken down with a target in the 108.19. Why is that more interesting? Because this head and shoulders could of course fail, and if we can get back over about the 109.25 area, then this would fail and set up a likely retest of this high. Okay, let's have a look at oils. Oil's been having a very weird few days. We saw a big decline on Friday, and these inverted head and shoulders on Brent crude, which is oil of course, and CL both failed. Now normally I'd be looking for a retest of the low, and we could see that here. But we saw a big spike up last night, most of which has now been given back. This is some pretty weird action, but it's weird action we've had for the last 3 or 4 days. We will see how this delivers from here, but I've got to say, normally I'd be looking for a retest of this low here, and we could see that. But I have to say, with the war hotting up and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait closing, and of course a lot of the oil that Saudi is getting out is actually coming through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait rather than the Strait of Hormuz. So get both of them closed, and that's Saudi. Much of the oil that is getting out doesn't then get out, so that would likely be pretty bullish news for oil futures. We'll see how that goes. HO, we had an IHS break up there too. That hasn't failed yet. On RBOB, we had a 6-minute buy signal at the low. That's already made target. Keeping an open mind here, but this isn't a particularly nice looking double bottom. I'd be more inclined to interpret this as a bear flag. On NG, no current divergence. I'm wondering if this is now returning back to this trend line to be tested again, and I've got that in about the 3.02 area. Looking at precious metals, we went lower. We extended lower last week, and I'm wondering now about a retest of the low here in about the 41.60 area on gold. On SI, I'm wondering about a retest of this low here in the 61.30 area. No, 61.50 area approximately. Palladium extended lower, and I've got a target I've got nice looking possible trendline targets on palladium and platinum a little lower, but not much. But if we're going to see gold and silver retest their lows, we'll probably go through those. HG, we've got we actually made a higher high here on the spot chart, so we've got a very nice looking nested double top on the spot chart. If we're going to see significant trouble on the equities market over the summer, which I'm still thinking we probably will, so then we will see how that goes. The real question about equity markets is, one, does the AI bubble falter? Two, possibly more importantly, do we get an oil shock this summer? I think all the numbers are suggesting that we do. The oil markets are suggesting that we don't, but I've seen a lot of I think that's just mispricing, but I could be wrong. We shall see. All right, let's have a look at the other commodities on KC. This is extended lower. No reason not to expect this to continue going lower. No current positive divergence. SB, we've got this triangle is broken down, and I'm still leaning towards seeing a retest of this low, but not particularly strongly. CC, we have had a pretty decent rally here, and I've still got an open target of 35.19, and no particular reason to think that won't make target. Lumber makes more sense on the bigger picture chart, but we've got a kind of triangle forming here, and we're not that far away from resistance. But it's a bit too large for it to show up really on this chart. But I was thinking possibly up to 615 or something, but we've got resistance on that, not far above. I think this is likely a bear flag forming. All right, CT, this looks like a bull flag forming, weak 6-minute buy signal fixed. I would say on the grains, it does appear that the market has made alternative arrangements in terms of urea, and that enough has been produced from other big gas fields, including the US. So the price hit on urea has actually been falling quite a lot over the last couple of weeks. This is probably the reason that the grains have been going down. And it may be, if that continues to be the case, and there's no particular reason to think that it won't be, then we're not going to have a crisis in fertilizer prices this summer. So we shall see. In the meantime, though, I've still got some nice bottoming patterns, and I'm still wondering if they might play out. We've got a 60-minute buy signal fixed on wheat, 60-minute buy signal fixed on corn, 60-minute buy signal brewing, rather, on soy. ZL is retracing a bit, but obviously is pretty close to the 2026 highs. Live cattle, we had a head and shoulders breakdown, and that has failed. That's setting up a retest of this high. Lean hogs, still wondering about bottoming action, still not really formed into any particular kind of a pattern. All right, great. Let's have a quick look at questions, of which we have none. In that case, I think that's a wrap, guys. Everyone take care, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow morning. All right, cheers.